bringing on Sean Shapiro with an infant bouncing on his knee. Like that's multitasking. Sean, thanks for joining the Steve Dangle podcast for the first time. We know it's going to be a bit of a crazy one for you, so we'll keep it somewhat short. But obviously, what we wanted to talk to you about is the ESPN/Disney/ABC and NHL deal. This is a big one because the NHL hasn't had games on ESPN since 2004. Joe Thornton was playing back then, just for everybody keeping track. And, I think this has been, ever since that relationship ended, it's always seems to have been the NHL needs to get back on ESPN. They finally did it. What are your initial thoughts on how this deal came together? And then, what its effect on the game overall will be?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that stands out about this is it's kind of the unique nature of a deal where we went from NBC, which was just a straight national TV deal, where this ESPN deal, it's a national TV deal. But the big thing about it that I think we need to keep remembering is this is a huge push for both ESPN and the league into streaming is kind of the most important thing, where it's the $420 million valuation. 100 million of that is pretty much essentially just to take over the NHL TV product in the United States for ESPN Plus. It's really a big push from the NHL standpoint to say streaming is where we're going, and we trusted ESPN subscriber base to give 75 exclusive games in the US to this without possibly losing an audience. So that's one of the biggest takeaways from me on this. And then the other thing about how this all came together is it's interesting because NBC, one of the important things I think that kind of gets forgotten is NBC, under their current deal that expires at the end of this season, had the right of first negotiation. And so NBC and the NHL, they went through those negotiations. They had those discussions, and this still got to ESPN to get the A package. So to me, those are kind of the biggest parts of this. Of the multi-tiered, we're going into streaming, we're embracing streaming, and B, of NBC not willing to come to the table for the A package and letting it get to ESPN even in the first place.
Since streaming seems to be the way they're going with all this, do you know much about plans for I don't know if there's regional blackouts or exactly how it works in the States, but it's a point of contention up here. People hate when games are blacked out. Adam.
They're ridiculous. Why are we blacking out games in the internet era? Come on.
You already know my opinion on that. I don't think it's the way we should be going. But do you know if they're going to make it basically countrywide?
The blackouts, the regional blackouts are still going to apply. So if you're in Boston, you can't watch the Bruins game on ESPN Plus. It's just like it was the one that's on NHL TV. You're going to have to still get NESN and get your regional sports network but then they're going to try and hook you on ESPN Plus by getting you with we have 75 exclusive games on ESPN Plus that don't go to regional sports networks across the league. And so knowing it's Boston, there's probably, since we're using Boston example, there'll probably be 8 games on that. So the blackouts still apply. And yes, that is a big issue in the United States. And I know one of the first questions I got from many people, fans and everything like that, when this all came out is, are we finally getting rid of the blackout restrictions? And no, they are not.
Wow. It's funny, Sean, with this deal that they, blackouts aside, you can understand the business case for a blackout, but it does seem like a bit of a dated concept, but you're not going to change that now. What I do want to talk to you about is okay, so the A package it's 75 games. Does that, and then obviously the Stanley Cup Finals on, I think, ABC and ESPN Plus and that sort of thing. Yeah. The thing that I'm most interested in is these 75 games. They're I'm assuming they're national games, right?
Yeah. So yeah, essentially, it's essentially under the ESPN umbrella, there's essentially 100 national games a year. Essentially, there's 25 or more, is the language, 25 or more that are going to be on ESPN and ABC traditional television. And then there's going to be 75 that are exclusive to ESPN Plus or Hulu. Basically, both subscriptions get them, but those are national ESPN produced games where there won't even be the regional sports network won't even be brought. It's like now in the United States, where if NBC's doing a game and they have that exclusive game, the local Fox Sports networks are taking the night off. That's what those games will be like.
Okay. And sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I wanted to ask, I feel like we're in our own little Canadian bubble up here, and all anyone keeps talking about is like, oh, I can't wait to hear Stephen A. Smith talk about hockey. Who are the stars supposed to be? Like, who? I guess they don't really have many stars in their hockey coverage, like at the moment, other than digitally. But who are some of the prospective people we could see talking about hockey, and who could you see them potentially bringing in to help?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things about it just talks about this is such a bit of a retro deal too, where the fact that Gary Thorne's name was trending on Twitter yesterday makes obviously he's someone where he's doesn't work for ESPN right now, but he's someone who I think he told Richard Deitch yesterday that he'd definitely be interested in taking their call. And so, but the issue, and it's not I'll use the word issue, but like there's the John Buchagrosses, there's the Linda Cohns, they're at ESPN. Those have always been the hockey folks, the folks that have talked about the game more, championed it more. And obviously there's some people on the digital side, on the writing side, but I think ESPN, and I think we're going to really learn about how ESPN views this deal on whether it's content or actual, or for lack of a better word, an actual real passion. Because if it's a real passion, I think you'll see them get into the space and trying to hire more people that would actually be the personalities on this, would be the people who would, because as much as great as any work that Buchagross and Linda Cohn do, that's it right now. There's no one else. Like it's not really, you're going to be like, oh, I tuned to ESPN for this. Maybe they bring Barry Melrose in or something like that. The issue is there's not really, I don't know who's going to talk about it and debate hockey on the daytime TV shows like they do with basketball. And so I'm going to be really interested to see whether if ESPN is really pushing and really emotionally attached to this the way they like to say they are in a introductory press conference on Zoom yesterday, then all of a sudden we'll see like, okay, you're going to actually have people with hockey knowledge. Otherwise, this could just be a content deal where after the honeymoon period of, hey, we have the NHL, in 2 to 3 years, are we just back to them yelling about LeBron's stat line instead on First Take?
Right. And you have to think the NHL wants that. They want the pop culture crossover, the Stephen A. Smiths, the Max Kellermans, and obviously on the Fox Sports side, it's Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. Those big sort of debate shows are the things that tend to make basketball relevant all the time, like not just every day, but every hour of every day. And the NHL really misses that. So my question next to you is, and I know we've got limited time here, they keep talking about this is the A package, this is the A package.
Yep.
Who is in on the B package? NBCSN is no more. Fox obviously seems like the second player. Are they going to be the local guys? And they'll probably have a lot more games overall if they are the regional broadcaster. Will they not?
Yeah, well, it's really weird. One of the things that's really weird in the United States, just got to keep in mind, is the Fox Sports networks actually have nothing to do with Big Fox anymore. Actually, the Fox Sports networks are owned by a company called Sinclair, and they're actually all going to be rebranded sometime later this year to the Bally Sports Networks. So, as the United States continues to embrace the gambling and gamification of being able to bet across the country, Bally's has basically bought the naming rights to all the old Fox Sports networks. And so don't be surprised where I don't know the exact sunset date for the Fox Sports titles, but eventually it'll be Bally Sports Detroit, Bally Sports Southwest, Bally Sports Carolinas, things like that. Those two are separate. Now, Fox, as far as the actual national TV B package, NBC is still interested and wants a seat at the table, but they are in this crossroads of who they want to be as a company and whether the NHL is involved in that. Because I've heard and been told that essentially $200 million US is going to get it done for the B package, and NBC, that's what they paid for the full exclusive package, and so they're obviously not going to be thrilled to have a third of the games and be the second player for the same price. And at the same time, they're betting big on the NFL, like anyone would in the United States. They're paying billions of dollars to the NFL just for Sunday Night Football. Their rights deal comes up soon with the English Premier League in the United States, which is a massive deal. And so the NBC is kind of it's the ball's kind of in NBC's court on this of whether do they want and have the budget to invest in the NHL, or do they kind of eventually walk away from this? And that's the case. And kind of my understanding is NBC wants this, they'll get this and be they'll get the B package. But if they don't want it, I'm pretty sure it'll go to Fox. That's kind of my feeling. The other thing that's just interesting about all of this, just like we think of how involved NBC has been with the NHL for the last decade, like the Winter Classic, the January 1st game, it's an NBC production because NBC doesn't have college football in the United States on January 1st. ESPN has college football on January 1st. Fox has a big college football station. So, and the NHL is never going to get rid of the outdoor games, but if NBC is not involved, is there a television partner that has a January 1st demand in the United States? Is another kind of interesting fallout of all of this, because I don't know if NBC is going to be, if NBC is the package, they're obviously going to keep trying to push the Winter Classic because they need something on January 1st. Fox doesn't need something to go head to head with college football on January 1st because they are one of the broadcasters for college football.
Wow. That's really, really interesting. So there's a lot.
I'm not a big holiday sports guy. Like, you can have that event on a day that's not January 1st. I know that's sacrilege in the States.
I think in the States it is. That's a family thing. That's why there's Christmas Day NBA games, man. It's a tradition.
Yeah.
It's a big thing here as far as between. I mean, it's why Thanksgiving there's 3 NFL games on Thanksgiving every year and everything like that. It's a big element that teams push for. It's something where, like, if the NHL wasn't a completely American-run league, they wouldn't have the Christmas break like they do, where we have no games for the 24th through the 26th in the NHL. If this was a completely American-run league and a more quote-unquote Americanized sport from the top, you wouldn't have that break.
Sean, last question here before we let you go, and I'm going to make Steve a little uncomfortable here. ESPN is a 35% owner of TSN in Canada. How does this deal affect Sportsnet in terms of their partnership with the NHL? I'm not saying it would throw anything off based on how it is, but is Sportsnet, if they're gonna take any of these national games, are they going to run an ESPN feed on Sportsnet? How will that affect things?
It's an interesting question. I think that's kind of that's still to be figured out on this element, frankly. I've talked to some other people on theories on what it could look like, and you could see them taking an ESPN feed, but obviously that's not something where Sportsnet's going to be super thrilled about that. So you also could see more of a deferral from Sportsnet's perspective to intentionally taking more of the regional sports network to avoid the ESPN, or more so of taking whatever that B package is, of focusing on the games that end up on there. So it's still definitely to be determined, but it's a really good question. Something I'm really fascinated to see how it tracks over when the next season does start.
Okay. Sean Shapiro of The Athletic. Check out his article on this. It's on the front page of The Athletic NHL page right now. Sean, we're going to let you get back to being a dad. Thank you so much for making time for us today last minute.
Thank you.